Hi, this is Attorney Broderick Brown with FightSlumlords.com, and today I'm giving my legal commentary on the Deshaun Watson matter. And from day one, I've been of the opinion that Deshaun Watson's been making a colossal mistake by not settling the initial lawsuit or the initial waves of the lawsuits. So when it was released that the defendant or that the plaintiff was only making a six-figure demand, I was shocked that he allowed this to happen over six figures. This is an individual with guaranteed money of eight figures who made eight figures in salary last year. And a lot of times plaintiffs' attorneys will always shoot for the moon with their first offer. So, now that we know that the first offer was only $100,000, it's crazy to me that he didn't even negotiate or make a counteroffer to the plaintiff. Generally speaking, when a plaintiff makes an offer of $100,000, it's indicating that they're willing to take less than that $100,000. In fact, that a lot of times an insurance company, for instance, would evaluate a $100,000 offer as the plaintiff really wants 50 or something in the ballpark of $50,000. And so if Deshaun Watson knew that, in fact, he was going to upwards of 75 to 100 different massage therapists in or around Houston area within the last 2 years, and that some potential problematic activity was going on, he should have went out of his way to settle that first case at any cost. At any cost. It just doesn't make sense why you have a guarantee of $30 to $40 million and you're not willing to pay less than six figures to make a potential lawsuit go away. Particularly when it doesn't sound like he's disputing the fact that a lot of these massages went down. And you know that you were soliciting sports massages in Instagram DMs. And now what's going to happen is that if the allegations are true, there's a potential that there may be some criminal repercussions. And what will happen during the discovery process is that both sides will get to exchange written questions, and both sides will have the opportunity to use the court's subpoena power to obtain documents from third parties. And what that means is that, for instance, in a lot of the complaints, the alleged victims are alleging that Mr. Watson contacted them through Instagram. I believe that Facebook, which owns Instagram, has a lot of data on us all. And so, given what happens with the algorithm, there's a strong likelihood, for instance, that Facebook knows how often Deshaun Watson was searching for massage therapists on Instagram, how much time he was spending on each of these plaintiffs' pages, how many messages he was sending to the plaintiffs, whether or not he was able to delete them within the app. I believe the app is retaining that information, and they have the ability to, pursuant to a subpoena, which means that the plaintiff's attorney, so the attorney for the massage therapist, can use the court's power to make Facebook produce all the relevant information on Mr. Watson's account. Now, that could be either a good thing or a bad thing for Mr. Watson. But if what the plaintiffs are saying is true, and there's a pattern of him searching under the massage therapy hashtags or related hashtags, and sliding into the DMs, there's a potential that the plaintiff's attorney will be able to see all the messages he sent to any massage therapist or to any woman for massage, and all of their interactions via the message. So I believe the truth is going to come out, and I find it hard to believe that upwards of 20 women are just making this up. That said, based on the fact that none of the 20 women had went to the police officers, the police or law enforcement initially, and the fact that the first person to file the lawsuit was the only woman to file a lawsuit, if he had settled with that initial woman for $100,000, $75,000, or $50,000, it's a strong likelihood that as we sit here in May 2021, that he would not be facing 22 separate lawsuits in Texas. And so that's why I would have recommended him to settle, and I ultimately think he's going to make a mistake. The second reason, the second most important part of the discovery process is that the plaintiff's attorney, Tony Busby, will have the opportunity to depose Mr. Watson about each occurrence for each separate case. So that means that he's going to sit for either 22 separate depositions or multiple days of depositions to cover each one of these incidents. Now, the deposition testimony has the same legal effect as if he was testifying in front of a judge or a jury. He's testifying under oath. He's testifying under a penalty of perjury. And so, if he slips up, or if deposition testimony comes into the record that he provides that substantiates any of these women's claims as to what happened, he may be facing criminal charges. And the prime example that you can look to is the Bill Cosby case. Ultimately, the reason why Bill Cosby is currently in prison is because of a deposition that he gave in an earlier lawsuit 10 years prior to his conviction, more or less. And ultimately on that case, the alleged victim filed a lawsuit. Mr. Cosby didn't settle it immediately. Mr. Cosby sat for a deposition and then ultimately still settled the lawsuit. Now, there are some technicalities as to why his deposition ultimately got released, even though they had settled it and it had been intended to be sealed. We'll have to save that for another video, but long story short is, in my opinion, given the nature of the allegations, which are sexual assault, in a couple of cases, women are alleging that he forced them to perform sexual acts on him. You got a guaranteed contract for 40-something million, and you're arguing over $100,000 or $50,000, which is significantly less than a game check. The reality of it is now that there's, in my opinion, and I said this a month ago, that he's not playing next season. He's going to be put on a list, or he's going to be suspended, but he's not going to play football next season. And there's a possibility that his career may be over. I think that he needs to settle these lawsuits today, because these aren't cases that he's not going to trial on 22 times. He's not going to trial 22 times. It's impossible. And even if he were to go to trial 22 times, in the climate that we're in, he can't afford to lose any one of those trials. It makes no sense for him to be fighting. This is the bottom line. It makes no sense for you to give a deposition and then settle after you give a deposition short of trial. Meaning, the way the civil litigation process happens is you file the lawsuit. There's the written discovery phase. Both sides are obtaining information, and then there's a deposition, and then there's a trial. Generally speaking, that's a fast way. Now, there may be a mediation at some point before the deposition or after the deposition, but before the trial. But the bottom line is that, in my opinion, I don't see this is a case that he's not going to go in front of 22 separate juries. And if you're not prepared to go in front of 22 separate juries, you might as well settle before any information comes out. Because he can justify a settlement even if he didn't do it, just because it allows him to clear his name, and it'll allow him to possibly avoid future criminal charges, and it would allow him to get back on the field sooner rather than later. Now, the NFL may still punish him, but if he loses, in my opinion, his punishment will be much harder. So those are my thoughts. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. I'm going to be giving more commentary on Deshaun Watson matter as more information comes out. I appreciate you if you've watched the video to this point. If you like this type of content, let me know. Subscribe and like this video. Thank you so much.